Welcome to Word Power Made Easy, and it takes me 2 hours to do this every day, so you better watch it if you find this video, that is. Let's get to start with Word Power Made Easy. Let's start session 22, Origins of Verbs, part 3. Yippee-ki-yay! Now, first of all, today we're just going to talk about another 6 verbs, and this is going to be a wild card. Let's get to start with. Now, first one, we're going to talk about tickling, like how to tickle, and it's like the word is titillate, and this verb basically comes from the Latin verb to tickle, and there are actually 2 meanings of this verb. There's a literal meaning, a thing you can actually do, and a figurative meaning, a thing that they say you do, but you don't actually do the literal meaning. Okay, let's go ahead. The literal meaning would be you're like pleasurable. You're like doing things that are pleasurable. You gently touch yourself in, apparently, according to the book, specific areas. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Like, it says strategic places, and you are then causing an actual and always very pleasant physical sensation. I have no idea what that means, so tell me in the comments below if you do. Also, I think I have an idea of what it is. Something to do with, like, mosquito bites. Alright, next up, we have to flatter. Of course, that's, like, the figured meaning is, like, to flatter. You're trying to go ahead and make some promises, like you're trying to charm or brilliance. At least that's how it says according to this book. It also apparently has the added meaning of light set. Oh! Okay. The second one is... Okay, I'm gonna skip this. The second one is how to flatter. Now, adulation, this is adulation. Now, this basically means flattery and worship, and that is, like, excessive and definitely ridiculous. Now, adultery is also one of those things I hear, and I've already discussed that topic in this channel when I talked about the scarlet letter. But the thing is, the root is like the Latin verb meaning, it comes from the Latin root meaning to fawn up as a verb. So that's pretty darn tootin' good, I guess. Next up, we have ways of writing. Now, this is where you actually have to talk about some roots. The root is scribe and, like, scribe. It's scripo, but in this case, it's also scriptus. Let me explain. Now, proscribe, I said, basically means to forbid something. Like, this is usually in, like, the medical, the religious, or legal prohibitions. Now, pro also means anti, so that means you can't do things, like you're not allowed to do this. It also means like you're a good god, greatest person alive with the best skill ever. But hey, in this case it just means banned. Next up we have prescribe, which is the opposite of proscribe, and the one that we actually heard of before proscribe even existed. So this is like you're just going to suggest, also in like you're supposed to suggest something to also in like a medical, religious, or a legal prohibitions, those kinds of things. But then again, it's like legal prohibitions. Yay! I might have to rewrite these notes. Next up, what are some words that other words that come from the root scribo and scriptus? It's script, it's manuscript, those kinds of things. The fourth one is, it's obvious, of course, it's via. No, via basically, you might be familiar with it, like, go to Mount Olympus via this Mount Olympian tunnel or something like that. There's no Mount Olympian tunnel yet. Go to England from France through the underwater tunnel railway. Yeah, it's via basically means to go through. And it's also from the Latin word. Via is also the Latin word that means road. And also, this is also used in other words too, like trivial or obviation. Trivial basically means you're like, what the heck? This is confusing. And obviation is like you're obvious. The fifth one is war. War! Really useful for bit wars, sky wars, and treasure wars, those kinds of things. Let's get to start with militate. Now, militate, it comes from the Latin root militus. And militus itself is a pretty darn tootin' good thing, at least if you're a soldier. And militus itself is actually Latin for soldier. And militate is just like militate basically comes into the words of the army or the military. Speaking of the army and the military also comes from the Latin word militus and militia too. Nice, man, nice. Our sixth and final verb for today is finding the bad news. I'll promise you guys, we're gonna talk about good news tomorrow. Malign basically is from the Latin root malus, and malign basically means you're speaking evil, you're like defaming someone, or you're slandering someone. And of course, there are other words that actually come from the Latin root malus, such as malevolent and maleficent, which is darn tootin' good in my opinion. And that's pretty much it. So I guess I'll talk to you guys about good news in the next episode. See you guys until then. So until then, shout out. Peace! And always wear a helmet.